Good morning, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion with me, Pastor Amanda. We are continuing in the Gospel of Matthew. We have just finished Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, chapters 5 through 7, and now we're diving into chapter 8, and we see Jesus in action. Now, we usually go through this kind of fast, so it's important that you dive in and read the words, each word for yourself. But I like to give you things to look at, to spark your imagination and to chew on just a little bit. And so let's dive into all the action going on for today. So as Jesus goes out, we find one of the first things he does now is to cleanse a leper. And this leper asks Jesus a very interesting question. Do you choose to heal me? And so we start to see this looking at Jesus' authority. What kind of authority does Jesus have? And in this case, Jesus says, I do choose. I do choose to heal you. And so there's this interesting play because it's so important for a leper to be healed because of his disease. He can't go into the temple and worship God, and he can't have relationships because people don't want to come near him. So it's really important that we see that Jesus chooses to bring people into relationship with God. So then we go on and we learn just a little bit more about Jesus's authority. And we find that a Gentile, a non-Jewish person, a centurion, we find out. So this is a man who's in the army, comes to Jesus asking for help. And what happens then is that the man says, if Jesus is willing to, he goes, you don't even have to come to my house. You're a man of authority. Just say the word and it will be done. And that impresses Jesus, that this man has that kind of faith that just a word from Jesus will do. I like this to think about this too, is that, we don't have to always be in close proximity. And then, of course, also there's the other part is that the centurion's asking on behalf of someone else. So it really goes to show how our faith plays out on many different levels. The next fun thing that happens in chapter 8 is that Jesus goes to Peter's house and his mother-in-law is sick. And Jesus heals her and she gets up and serves. And we like to say that she is our first deaconess in the Bible, the first person who had hands laid on her, and then she began to immediately serve. So that's kind of one of those little scriptures that we use with deacons and elders in the church. And then we have the next little part where in verses 18 through 22, we have some would-be followers. They want to follow Jesus, but they have their excuses of why they can't do it right now. Haven't we all fallen into that situation where we just don't have the time, we think, or maybe our heart's not in the right place right now, we feel distracted, we just can't take the time right now. And so we see that this problem with having excuses of why we can't be disciples is nothing new. So it just calls us to question, are we making our relationship with God a priority in our life? And then as Jesus continues on his wonderful journey, we find that he calms a windstorm. So again, it's going back to Jesus's authority. Not only does he have the ability to heal someone, not only does he have the power to just speak a word and someone to be healed, his healing provides a person to get up and to serve, but now he also has the ability to calm creation. He's got a lot of power. Like, Jesus is really just the man. But we already know that, but it's pretty impressive. But then finally, we realize that Jesus's power is so strong, it scares people. And in verses 28 to the end, we find that he comes into a country where two demons are coming out of the tombs. Demoniacs are what they are actually called, to meet him. and they were so fierce that no one could pass the way. And suddenly they shouted, "What have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Now a large herd of swine was feeding at some distance from them. The demons begged him, "If you cast us out, send us into the herd of swine." And he said to them, "Go." So they came out and entered the swine, and suddenly the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and perished in the water. And then the whole town came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they begged him to leave their neighborhood. Jesus has shown all this authority, but it's going to change things. And his power, it is scary. It's intimidating. I think about my congregation just a little bit, and I wonder, like, I think we get overwhelmed by what God could do. We worry so much about, are we going to be able to make sure all the details are covered? Can we take care of everything? But the reality is yes, with Jesus, it's all going to be covered. But sometimes it's too much. It really is scary what God can do, what Jesus can do. And so I love this because it just makes us think about how maybe we push Jesus away because we're scared of the power, of the change that he could potentially do in us and through us. And that maybe we need to get a little courage and see what we could do with God instead of make our excuses of why we can't hang out with God right now. So something to think about. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me today, and have a wonderful day.